the other junk. Yes. Does it stick in my craw that the state's making us do this? Yes. But this plan that's been worked on by us and had to be kept under, quote, silence because we were in litigation, I think is a fair plan. I think it's better than most. I thank our administrator and our professionals for doing this. Yeah, I have some concerns about a couple of the sites. Yeah, I got some dirty feelings about one of the sites, but I'm not a cop. I'm a township person, and I think these sites give us the biggest bang for our buck, and I'm voting yes.
Deputy Mayor Bontempo.
So this has been a process of a couple of years going involved with this affordable housing plan. Learned a lot, right? Started out not knowing very much at all about affordable housing and the process and what's required and what we have to adhere to. I can tell you that I did sit in the sessions that Andy referred to with the judge, you know, trying to understand the kind of conversations that go on between councils and interveners and different property owners. You know, I don't think any plan is going to be nirvana, right? I'm one of a perfectionist for those who know me, and you know, last year when we're sitting up here in December, those of you who were here, you know, probably heard that the 2017 plan of 454 units was the best plan we're ever going to get, right? You heard the meeting, I heard it, it's the best plan we're going to get. Fast forward 12 months later, I think we improved on it. Is it perfect? No. Are there issues in areas? Yeah, I have a hard time with all three of the properties, right? I've been looking at that and all the different properties that are potentially available. I have a problem with the flooding in Palmer, a significant problem with that. I have a hard time putting families in the middle of a flood area knowing that they don't know if they're coming new in the town. It's a brand new building they could rent, that the life that they may have and the encumbrances are going to be on them. I also have a problem with some of the densities, right, that we're changing to, right? We're going from a very rural, why a lot of people came here, and a couple of comments tonight was, I moved to Holmdel, right, because I didn't want to be next to apartment buildings. I didn't either, right? I think the Route 35 project was in last year, would have been an atrocity. It was an eyesore, and it was shoving, you know, 10 pounds of what into a 5-pound bag. That would have been the project. And I'm glad that's not part of this plan. There are other pieces of land that are potentially available that fit the sewer service area that I'd still like to pursue because I do think that here's the tough part, right? You have the four of us up here that this is a part-time job for the four of us, right? And we are not experts in affordable housing. And it's a complex and very controversial issue because I am not a fan of government telling me of specific housings to go in the town that we live in. I don't believe it. I do believe that there should be affordable housing, but it should be done and let the market prevail, right? It should be forced into situations. So, you know, I also think that Holmdel in itself, although I did hear the numbers from Jen and I trust our professionals on school children, why I moved here and why maybe some of you out here moved here was because of the school system, right? So when homes go up for rent or for sale in Holmdel, I think the people that are going to look at them first are people with children, right? So is the number 93 correct? It may be. Could it be low? Possibly. And that concerns me too, because we just went through a referendum, right, and our taxes are going up. We agreed to put our tax up to improve our school system. I hear our school summer classrooms are very large at capacity, and what will adding X amount of children add? Because if the schools have to improve and increase in size, that's a capital budget, our taxes are all going up. So again, no easy situation, but am struggling with this, and at this point right now, I really need more time to continue to get feedback. So I am no on this plan. Mayor, you are back in charge.
Boards and committees. And we start with, you guys leave? Let's get started.
You got another meeting, Andy?
Greg, anything on public safety?
I have nothing, thank you.
Eric? No. Michael?
Nothing for last meeting here. Just want to say thank you for a very good year. You had a rough run. It was the last meeting of the year, but good job. Very good job.
Fire department report is coming. Rough draft coming in. I'm going to get it first. It's going to cost us some money. I think it's going to make the town people very happy, even the people in South Holmdel. So hopefully in January, whoever the new mayor is, we'll get it on the agenda, have Dr. Carter come, give his report, and it's unedited. It's his report. Thank you.
Thought it was supposed to be this meeting.
It's not done yet. He had some health issues, so the report is not done. I just can't help that.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to invite Bruce Henderson from HYAA to give us a feedback from the Recreation Committee. I know you were reviewing.
Been sitting for a long time back there. A little bit longer than me. Hello. There you go, talking to the mic. Yeah, Bruce Henderson, Vice President of HYA and also a member of the Recreation Advisory Council.
Your address also, please.
11 Bryce Road. Basically, a list of improvements was given to us for the Recreation Advisory Council at their meeting on Monday, December 3rd, 2018. At this meeting, the members in attendance agreed to the suggestions that were given and agreed to present these items to the town council or the town committee at the December 18th meeting. Not going to sit here and go through everything because it's part of the agenda. But a lot of this is part of that plan that we presented back in October that, everyone was on board with and stuff like that. So just want to make that known. And just from a personal note, just to jump in, my daughter's on the tennis team and we had no idea that that was going on tonight for some strange reason. So maybe if we can postpone that to January and for the cross-country team, because I know there was one individual, but that would be awesome for the kids. I don't know what the miscommunication with the team is. But that's it. All right?
Thank you, Bruce. And one update on recycling. We're going to be expanding our recycling program to include plastic used toys beginning the first of the year. We are partnering with Second Chance Toys, and we had a storage container dropped at the recycling yard. We're going to be doing this Friday.
Yes.
This Friday. We can start dropping off toys. We'll post it on the website. Those toys will be cleaned thoroughly before they're shipped out of here. And they will be distributed throughout needed communities and households, starting in Monmouth County and then throughout the state of New Jersey. And with that, I will open it up for public comment. Ralph.
Hello, and I think this is your last meeting of the year.
This would be our last meeting
So
of the year.
happy holidays,
Ralph.
happy New
Can you state your
Year.
name again?
Sorry, Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. With regard to the Recreation Advisory report that we just had, and there was also a whole bunch of additional information with regard to the capital improvement aspects that are what was part of the agenda packet, reading between the lines that a bond referendum or a capital program can't be voted on tonight in any case, but would have to be introduced next year and then voted on next year. Is that your intent?
That is exactly what we're thinking about, yes, Ralph.
Okay.
Knowing you stated it clearly, we couldn't introduce an ordinance this month and then carry it into next month, so that's our thought.
Okay, and to go with that, consistent with my comment I made last month, part of the HYAA proposals was that improved maintenance was needed. That's not a capital budget, but an operating budget, and that applies to both the township and the schools. So as part of this quote-unquote comprehensive plan, will there be a piece addressing better maintenance, both from the town and the school property?
Any other questions with answer?
No, that's
the
it.
last one.
Yes, so absolutely, Ralph. We have had meetings with the Board of Ed, since a lot of these improvements will be on their property. We will be working cooperatively with them to maintain the fields we're going to do. Also, our recreation director has identified a field maintenance specialist who we're going to bring on board. We'll look at all of our fields, both township and school. So we're going to improve them and then maintain them, absolutely.
So that'll be part of next year's budget then?
Yeah, it'll just be built into the Public Works budget, which we're starting to go over the department head budgets now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New
Thank
Year.
you, you too. In the back, sir. Tom, come on.
Tom Connors, 28 Candlelight Drive. I'm a resident, but I'm also working for Weichert here in Holmdel as well. And I'm coming to you to talk about what I consider a real estate issue where I think we need a change in an ordinance. I currently have a home on the market. And it's been on the market for over a year, maybe even close to a year and a half. It's on 17 Sweetbriar, behind on the 34 side. And they have a house right next door to them that I believe is in foreclosure, which is an issue in and of itself. I don't even think they pay taxes there. But they have several vehicles parked in their driveway. One being an UTZ truck that's been there for years. I don't know if it has a license plate or not. I think it does. I've spoken to David Olson on many occasions. The homeowners have been up to the town many occasions. And what they've been told basically is because it's on paved surface, that it's fine. It's within the guidance of Holmdel. And I would suggest that's just not a residential item that should be there. And I think if you look at other areas in town, and I've seen several, where people have several commercial vehicles, they have a bus in their driveway or used for camping purposes, a boat in their driveway, bobcats, all in one driveway, and that to me is not residential. And I think we need to look at the ordinance and help our homeowners and help our values by making a change here.
So Tom, this house is in foreclosure, the one with the pictures?
No, 15 Sweetbriar is the one I believe is in foreclosure.
Okay.
17 is on the market for sale, and everyone who looks at it talks about the house next door, and mainly talks about the
Which
UTZ
number is
truck.
this? Which number is
I
this?
believe it's 15 Sweetbriar.
So a couple things with this, because this is a real pet peeve of mine. First off, with all abandoned property, and we've been working really, really hard
You really have
to identify, I think we've 15. I mean that we've gotten people back in. There's nothing worse than an abandoned house. Some of the challenges is that identifying the bank. A lot of them are foreign banks. And believe it or not, they do pay the taxes. If they don't pay the taxes, then as you know, it's tax liened up in Monmouth County. What happens in a lot of these cases because of the 08 tragedy is you have multiple lines. So you might have 3 banks and it's not clear even, and no, people aren't willing to take a tax lien because there's multiple tax liens on the property. So it gets a little tangled up. But that's another pet peeve of mine is the commercial truck. But as the rule is, and I don't know if we have the ability, Mike or Donna, to change this rule. If you have a commercial truck with a valid license plate, you can, as long as it's on a paved surface, it is technically. There's not much we can do about that. It cannot stay overnight in the commercial in the
We
street.
can certainly look at the zoning.
But I'm happy to support a more challenging.
It's my understanding we have to relook at our zoning, and this is not.
Zoning,
they own the house that has this, and I've spoken to David Olson several times, and homeowners have too. It's hurting them. They can't sell their home, and I can't tell you how many people have made the comment. But if you look around Holmdel, there are others like this, or even worse than this, and it's something that we just have to consider as a town, because I think it makes a difference in our values, and not every town allows what we allow.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Take a look at it.
Merry Christmas.
Jen?
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladder Drive. It's been a busy week for me with the market and everything, but so I'm not quite clear about this recreation process. Is what the engineer proposed something that will be the plan that will be voted on and bonded, or are these ideas that will go out to bid? That's my question. And
That's
I have
all
a
the
follow-up. Well, I have a follow-up.
Go ahead.
Okay. The follow-up comment is, I find some of these, while I'm not an engineer, I find some of these figures extremely disturbing. I am an analyst. For example, for 2 pairs of dugouts, which are quite simple, I actually looked up the model numbers. The highest they go off the shelf is 10,000 apiece. There's 2 pairs, that's 4, that's 40 grand. Figure fencing around them, 10, 15 grand, concrete 10 grand, maybe 15 grand, engineering work 5, 10 grand. At most, with a nice profit margin, you may get to 85, 90,000. The estimate, 193,000. That's just one number. Also, I'm not aware that the HYAA proposed $250,000 plus for new turf on one of the soccer fields at Cross Farm Park. And these are just some highlights. So these are huge numbers. I know there's been a lot of, since this document was released, I know there's been a lot of communication behind the scenes at utter shock at these numbers, and I just hope they're going to go out to bid, and I hope you guys are really going to take a close look at them, because I don't think they passed the smell test. And I think this dugout example is just one example. Thank you.
Sure. So as with any capital project we do, we have to come up with a bond amount that we're going to bond for. Once that bond amount is introduced and approved, we then go out to bid, because we have to. So we'll bid out this project. We'll get maybe 4, maybe 10 people come in and bid, and we take the lowest bidder. So it is a competitive process. These numbers are certainly not written in stone. These are estimates that a lot of different organizations have provided us just for a basis for this project. Once the bond is prepared, we go out to bid, then we'll have our real numbers.
Okay, great. And by the way, I'm not opposed to these projects.
Yeah, no.
It's the numbers. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sir?
Hey guys, it's Chris DeVito at 4 Deercrest Drive again. I'm here tonight for 2 issues. One is the road improvements that we've asked for over in the summer in August. We had a petition put together and we asked for some road improvements for the, just curbs or something, because all the runoff from Stillwell and Deercrest Drive coming down to Crockett's Corner is just insane. Especially with the last couple of rains we've had, the rain coming down and inundating everybody's front lawn where everybody's septic tank is. It's going to cause damage, and I'm sure it has already. So we're asking for some home improvements, for some road improvements again for Deercrest Drive. And second, I'd like to see if we could revisit the ordinance that was put forward in August for the sub pump. So I wasn't a big fan of the way that was written. If we could come up with something that was plain English, simple, I'm not opposed to people discharging sub pump water in the street, but when it inundates my property and destroys my neighbor's driveway on a way to a catch basin, then it bothers me. So we have no curbs to guide that water along the street to a catch basin. So the front of my property has been inundated from 6 Deercrest Drive. So she's got a garden hose from her basement out to the street as big to everybody in the neighborhood. And the water just keeps on flowing. And after that rain we just had, 2 weeks, I guarantee she'd be pumping that water out. So I don't know if there's a health hazard in her house, that the water has to be constantly pumped out continuously, 24/7, for a week straight. But, without, I'm to the point where I'm going to take legal action. But I'm asking the town to come again and just revisit this ordinance and maybe borrow another ordinance from, say, Hazard or Middletown, or at least come up with something really simple. If it creates a nuisance to the homeowners, if it's inundating other homeowners' property with water, damage, the icing is going to come tonight, how cold it is. I have pictures of it. I'm ready to present it to the municipal judge. I'm just asking for, a little bit more background to go to the judge with, than besides a nuisance complaint. I need something like in writing, some type of sub-pump ordinance. Just something simple. I'm not like, again, I don't want to, have the whole town upset and, want to kill me when I leave here. But just something simple, if it's creating a nuisance or a road hazard for icing and stuff like that, something very simple, plain English, no permits, no fees, something simple that can be enforced on a case-by-case basis. Okay?
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. So Chris, two things. We're doing capital for 2019, and I know your subdivision is high on the list of things that we're trying to add to that. And I know T&M Associates is well aware of that sump pump ordinance, and we've asked them to take a fresh look at that, although it hasn't been high on our list over the last couple of months. I'll make sure they look at it next month. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question?
Come on up. Come on up. You gotta come up and say hello.
My knees
Your name and address,
Marlene
please.
Flemmer, 3 Deer Crest. When do you come out with the list of streets to be remediated?
So that's part of our capital plan, and that'll be part of our budget. So our public works director and engineer are working on that now, and those roads we will probably have presented probably the end of January, February.
And it'll be on your website?
Yes, and there's also on our website now, there's a link. If you want your road included in our plan, send an email to that address, and believe me, we have everyone's email, we're adding them all, and we're assessing them, and we're gonna add as much as we can.
Check the link, because I got it returned.
You got it returned?
So
Mail demon.
Okay, we will check that tomorrow morning.
We will, and someone made me aware of that this week, and I forwarded that to the Public Works Director, and he's aware of
Okay,
it.
we will get that link fixed by tomorrow, and you can email again. But we have your road on our list again, don't worry.
Hallelujah. Okay.
Any other comments from the public?
Lori Saison, 2 Deer Crest. I'm at the bottom of the road. The water runs continuously. This morning, it was a nice ice patch, like this, for me to lean over to get into my mailbox. I could not put my recycling out, the cardboard out tonight, because it's a patch of water and it's running, and it would just be a soggy mess by tomorrow morning when they come. It is undercutting the road surface all along the edge of the property before it gets to the catch basin. Somebody's going to turn that corner, hit the ice patch, and have an accident. Okay? So I'm here to reiterate, I will email, I'll write letters, whatever we have to do, but something really needs to be done.
Barbara, and then the young lady in the back.
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. I'll go through the questions.
Yes, please. Thank you.
I guess I'll skip ones. The rec project, is that going to go to one contractor, or will it be broken down into parts for the best bidders on each part? Amongst the 100 pages given to us, there was a list of ZBA minutes that are missing. Why are they all missing?
I'm sorry, the what?
I guess it was this zoning board minutes, or that's from the agenda.
Oh, from the agenda.
In the agenda, yes, these are all pages from the agenda.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. The bill list. Okay.
Missing minutes, right, okay. There was a resolution authorizing cancellation of municipal certificate due to erroneous taxes. It said it was determined that the above blocks and lots were not in existence, but there's owners' names and information, so I'm just wondering how that happens. Cancellation of improvement authorization balance not needed for the purpose for which it was authorized. 2003-20 ordinance, acquisition of real estate, deferred charges of $1.4 million. If that could be explained what that was supposed to be for and why it's just being taken off the records now. A fund distribution from Fair Share Housing over $39,000. I was wondering what that was for. And finally, I saw on, in the executive session, you were discussing the Holmdel Library Foundation, so I was wondering if there was any update that could be provided to the public tonight.
Thank you. I'll let Jeanette answer the tax questions. As far as the rec project, we haven't put that together yet. We're going to bid it out. There'll probably one contractor, but we don't know at this point. As far as the library, we can't discuss that. I was discussing executives. There's really no update specifically to that. In the zoning board minutes, we had a issue getting them all done, so we had to get back into compliance, and so we had someone help us out with those minutes. And that's what that charge was for.
So they're going to go back now and they will be all these.
Yes, oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So we're catching up, and we're going to be moving in January to a paperless agenda system, which will also enable us to get our minutes done better and timely, more efficiently and effective. So hopefully we won't have that on the bill list next time. And then, the 39,000 distribution was probably attorney's fees for Fair Share. I had to look at the bill list. I don't have it off the top of my head. Do you know what the? I'm sure it was probably attorneys.
It was 39,000?
It seems a little high, so I don't know if that was maybe for community grants and planning for our co-administrator.
Yeah, and I think that there was some billing too from earlier this year, maybe last year, for the planner as well.
Yeah.
That there was billing.
So all the professionals that have been working on our affordable housing plan, also our housing administrator gets paid out of that line.
Yes.
And Jeanette can talk about the cancellation of debt.
So the cancellation of the tax sale certificates, they date back to the early 90s. We did a tax update, tax map update, and it revealed that those 4 block and lots were part of a single property, and the subdivision was never perfected. I can't answer how that happened. I can just say that prior to the tax map update, we were unaware of it. The taxes that are associated with that are, $75 a year. They're, it's negligible amounts. But because those block and lots don't exist, I don't know how the names, are associated with there. I don't have any answers for you. But if you looked on the county clerk's website, you will see that they don't exist. So they need to be canceled to be taken off the books. As far as the cancellation of the deferred charge, so that was for the F&F tract. And what happened when we purchased that, again, this is years and years ago, we used cash. We were supposed to borrow the money for it. Well, whatever happened, none of the money was borrowed, and we paid cash for it. So we had to pay back our capital fund, which we've raised over the past 5 years. There was a line in the budget breaking up that amount into 5, and we had to raise it as a deferred charge. So now all the money's been raised, and we can cancel that off of our books.
What was the money raised from?
From taxes.
Just from taxes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Young lady in the back. No, come on.
Jolie Shave, 11 Ladbroke Drive. I don't really have any specific questions. I just want the opportunity to speak on behalf of those who are my age who aren't always able to be here. So I've lived my entire life in Holmdel, and this town, its schools, its parks, and its people made up my entire childhood. I was proud to grow up as a Holmdel Hornet, but now I'm older and my eyes are open to the unethical behavior taking over the place that I called home. I regret to say that I'm almost ashamed now. I'm still young, yes, I'm only 19. But with all credit to Holmdel's amazing school system, I'm not stupid, and I'm not ignorant. I cannot turn a deaf ear to whisper gossip, and it almost makes me feel like I'm back in middle school. The difference is, some of the gossip I hear now is true, and I've seen it. This town is being manipulated by people who swear on good intentions. They put a positive spin on every project proposal as though it's solely for our benefit. If the intentions are good, and everything is done for our benefit, why lie? Why cover up details? I represent Holmdel's next generation, the ones who will inherit every mistake made under this town. I ask that you look into yourselves, think of your families, and think of the families that your children are going to start. What do you want to pass on to them? What examples do you want to set for them? Try asking them and let them speak. During my senior year of high school, at the peak of the soccer complex issue, I printed out articles and urged my classmates to read about what was going on. I then asked if they would sign a petition against it. In one lunch period, which lasts about an hour, I gathered 187 signatures. 187 in 1 hour. I wish I'd continued gathering signatures, but I decided not to because I was afraid that I would be treated with the same disrespect as so many others in this room have been trying. So many others in this room have been when trying to combat the unethical behavior. That in its own is shameful. Young adults like myself should be empowered to stand up for what we believe in, and that's why I'm thankful for the opportunity to stand here today, so I can share my hope for a different future for this town. One that won't be found under even the brightest lights you could put in the soccer complex. It's in honesty, transparency, and the true best intentions for Holmdel citizens. Thank you.
Thanks.
Scott Goldstein, 20 Wasteland Drive. When does the committee get the minutes and the complete set of not minutes, the agenda and all the addendums to that for this meeting?
How many questions do you have, Scott?
Just two.
Go ahead, ask the second.
Okay, and the second question is, the stuff that is put online has been scanned poorly, okay? It's cockeyed, okay? The document itself is 100 pages, okay? It's locked. I can't search electronically to find on page 67 that all the information on the affordable housing. I mean, the requirement is for the town to notify the community via Asbury Park Press, I believe, putting up a bulletin board. I was here yesterday, 2 o'clock. It wasn't on the bulletin board yet. Okay? It was up online 24 minutes later when I got home. I would urge the town to try to make it easier and have the stuff unlocked. You're typing this on word processors. You just put it up there so we can access the stuff and read it better. We're getting older, and you know, it's hard to read this stuff, you know, when it's not clear.
Okay, Scott, thanks for the comment. I'll just respond with respect to the meeting notice. This meeting and every other meeting is absolutely advertised consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting, like most others, are advertised at the very beginning of the calendar year in January, so the requirement for advertisement of the meeting is satisfied at that point in time. And from a legal standpoint, that satisfies the requirement in its entirety. There's no requirement for posting on the bulletin board subsequent to the posting of the annual meeting dates in January. That being said, it's always been the practice of the township to post the agenda prior to the meeting, and we've been following that practice, and my understanding is from what you said, you had the agenda in advance of today, which has always been our practice, and I'm sure if we're moving towards an all electronic agenda, I'm sure that'll remedy some of the issues you raised.
And I'm aware that you post the date and time of the agenda for the entire year, okay, for the township committee meetings and the zoning board and the planning board. What I'm looking for is, when do you guys get to see the actual agenda for tonight and all the attachments?
Yeah, there are various iterations where drafts are going around, and then the final agenda that is approved by the mayor is released for following the weekend on the following Monday, I believe. But I just want to caution in response to your comment, everything, all the actions that have been taken are consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, so there's no violation by any of the issues that you're raising.
Okay, so I mean, you're collecting this stuff electronically. Could you leave the files accessible so that we can actually use the word processor, format it correctly, so we can actually search 100 pages to find what we're looking for? I mean, this is, I mean, the whole
I'm the
idea,
attorney, not the IT guy.
the whole idea here is transparency
I'm sure we could look into
and community involvement, okay?
Thank you.
And have a happy new year.
Great seeing you jumping in front of Joe. Come on up.
Crowley again.
Francie Campus, 2 Country Squire Lane. This might seem silly with all the issues that we're facing tonight to bring this up, but I just want to, first of all, it's very nice for those new signs. Welcome to Holmdel Township on 520 and there. Has there been any consideration to having a new sign for town hall?
Yes,
Yes.
it's being bought and.
Very good. Thank you, and I love the Christmas tree.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
You hear that, Bob?
Come on up,
She
Jill.
loves the Christmas tree.
Oh, thank you.
Bob hung the lights himself.
Joe Crowley, 15 Ely Road. I would like to acknowledge that I believe that the committee put in a tremendous amount of work on the COA issue. As noted by some of the council members, it's not a perfect solution. I do think of critical importance is making sure that the Palmer Avenue area is, in terms of flooding, appropriately remedied. So I just encourage you to make sure that remains a top priority. I'd also like to acknowledge the efforts of Bob Ward and the Rec Advisory Committee, particularly Bruce Henderson, in terms of the work they've done for the recreation proposal. And the question I have is there input on that proposal via email to Bob, an appropriate way of providing feedback on that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Happy New Year.
Motion, Tom.
I don't think so. One
Almost,
more.
almost.
We're getting close. We're getting close. Randy.
Hi. Good evening, Randy Rasher, 36 Blue Hills Drive. Most of my questions, or all my questions rather, are related to the proposed improvements on the rec facilities. Anytime the rec subject comes up, the first thing I do is I go to the township-wide survey that we spent 40-some thousand on. And I first look for reconciliation between the proposals versus what the township residents said they wanted. And if my memory serves, somewhere between 12 and 14% of the respondents were in favor of investing in baseball and or softball. But yet that is the topic that is being attacked first. All due respect for the HYA, and I have a lot of respect for them, and I understand their needs. But I just want to make sure, actually ask, how do we reconcile the expenditure of so much, we're talking about $2.1 million versus what the township residents said we wanted to spend the money on? That's my first question. And the other is, once we start drilling down into the costs, at least a couple of the items are on BOE property. I would assume, I'd like to assume, that the BOE would pick up the dime on those. And the first other thought I had was the first dollar that we do spend from the township side, that it come from the pilot money. And last but not least, in going through some of the line items, at least some of them strike me as remedial work, things we didn't get quite right the first time on the softball fields. And I think that those items, if that's true, they ought to be highlighted so that they're considered in a separate way. Maybe we don't pick up the dime on that.
Exactly. So that's it, Randy?
Yeah.
So going back to the recreation survey, obviously that's been a process that we spent a lot of time and energy and money on. And we've also had to weigh the input that we've gotten from the user groups, and primarily the HYA folks that have criticized this committee and prior committees for not investing money in keeping the fields up to par. And that is a fair assessment of our prior commitment to those fields. So we felt pretty clearly and strongly, everyone up here, that we needed to do something in order to remedy the fields that we have in existence today, both township owned as well as Board of Education owned, prior to building anything new. And that was also a lot of the input that we got from folks like yourself that said, guys, before you build anything new, why don't you take care of what we have? And we actually, I personally went out to the fields, and quite honestly, they're embarrassing. So during some of our conversations, we felt this was a commitment that we wanted to make, and hopefully that answers your question. We're going to make that commitment, and clearly, for well over a year, folks like Mr. Crowley and other coaches and executives at HYA have been here regularly to demand better maintenance to those facilities. Additionally to the maintenance, we're going to make improvements. We've asked them to show us, and we heard about dugouts earlier tonight, those type of things are a bare necessity that I believe we need to include. So I think that answers primarily your main question.
Just that the 2.1 million kind of.
And that number is being pulled out from folks at our own internal staff here at the township. Some people at HYAA, T&M has chimed in. It's not an accurate number. I'm pretty confident, it's an estimate, I'm pretty confidently less than that, significantly less than that. And someone brought up the point about the dugouts, and they're right. That's a ridiculous amount of money for 4 dugouts. So we're aware of that. We're going to be really careful on how we spend that money. And the public will have an opportunity to look at that much more closely next year. Thank you.
I also had raised the questions about how were the costs.
So when you say the pilot money, when we
Yes.
get revenue into the town, it goes into one big pot. There's not little different areas that our CFO gets to pull from. So over the past 4 years, she's done an excellent job increasing our fund balance. So whether or not we use pilot cash or we bond for it, that'll be a financial decision that we'll talk about as we move forward.
And Randy, from your standpoint, you don't really care if the school board or we pay, it's taxpayers. So it's really our issue more than it is your issue. Because either way.
I agree. Yes, I'm thinking of the.
Right, we'll say school board and they'll say us.
Right.
From your standpoint, you really don't care.
Well, yes and no. I mean, maybe it should be part of the 2020 referendum coming out of that.
Their budget is much bigger than ours, so.
Exactly.
Thank you. Motion?
We have one in the back, one remaining in the back. Come on up.
Penny Rauscher, Senator Rauscher's husband, wait.
It's getting late.
I am so tired. 36 Blue Hills Drive. I just had a question about the Rossi that I just recently, in one of the last meetings, heard that term and wasn't familiar with it. And I just wondered, is there a certain amount of time, like, do we have to, what's the word? Required to be updated. How often is it required to be updated? And when was the last time we updated the Rossi?
So that's called a Recreation Open Space Inventory. That's what Rossi stands for. And what that is, that's an inventory of all of our parcels that are listed under open space. So that gets updated as we acquire new parcels. So there's not each year you have to update it. It's as we acquire new parcels, our Rossi gets updated.
Okay, but I know there's some that aren't updated yet. There was one that was referred to across from Bayonet.
So if they're not currently included on the Rossi and the committee takes action to include them, they'll take action. We do a process through Green Acres, and then it gets added to our open space inventory. But it's not that each year we go in your backyard and say we're going to take this for our Rossi. That's not how it works. Okay, thank you.
So I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. Our next meeting is January 2nd. Please join us in our reorganization where we will select a new mayor and deputy mayor.
What
time? To adjourn. Thank you.
What time?